attempt to flee the wickedness and degeneracy of our modern culture, many people have considered Eastern Orthodoxy to be highly attractive. With its liturgical beauty, hymns, and zeal for tradition, many have left their liberalized Protestant denominations or liberalized Roman Catholic parishes in order to find true, unadulterated tradition. However, to be Eastern Orthodox means to hold to the tenets of orthodoxy. These tenets of faith include the, quote, whole apostolic deposit of faith, which includes scripture and tradition. Tradition being the canons and the teachings of the first 7 ecumenical councils and other local church canons. The church canons are very important for orthodoxy since these church canons are a part of the moral teaching of the church. That is to say, if we break these canons, we are no longer within the church and are either schismatic or heretical. Many instances of canonical abuses and outright heretical views and statements made by patriarchs will be addressed in this video. The first instance of canonical abuse will be from the Joint International Commission for Theological Dialogue between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. This commission is an establishment between the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church in order to seek church unity and agreement. Not only is it an ecumenical discussion, it includes participation of ecumenical prayer/liturgy, where the Orthodox attendees would attend Mass, praying and worshiping alongside the Catholics. Statements such as the condemnation of proselytism between the Catholic and Orthodox were explicitly mentioned at these meetings. Almost every single patriarch is represented in these ecumenical meetings. Some of the patriarchs that are included are listed, such as the Ecumenical Patriarchate, Alexandria, Antioch, Jerusalem, Moscow, Serbia, Romania, Georgia, and Bulgaria, and others. This ecumenical dialogue, and especially the prayer and mass attendance, is explicitly condemned by the Apostolic Canons 65 and 45. Both of these canons explicitly condemn praying with heretics and entering their places of worship to engage with heretical prayer. Nicodemus the Hagarite, the one that compiled the Rudder, interprets the following canons. The present canon considers it a great sin for a Christian to enter a synagogue of the Jews or of heretics in order to pray. For what does a believer share with an infidel? According to the divine apostle, for the Jews themselves violating the law by going into synagogues and offering sacrifices, that the offering of sacrifices anywhere outside of Jerusalem is forbidden according to the law. Then how much greater violation is there that of a Christian who prays together with the crucifiers of Christ? But it also must be emphasized that any churches of heretics or any one of their meetings should not be given honor or attended, because they believe things contrary to the beliefs of the Orthodox, but rather ought to be rejected. Thus it is that the present canon ordains that if any clergyman or layman enters the synagogue of Jews or that of heretics, offering gracious prayers, that clergyman shall be deposed, and at the same time excommunicated. Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew on many occasions has explicitly broken Apostolic Canons 45 and 65 by entering a Jewish synagogue, calling the Jewish, quote, temple a, quote, blessed synagogue.
It is indeed a real joy for us to be afforded the opportunity to visit this blessed Park East Synagogue.
And also urges for the attendants to, quote, hold our hands in prayer, also affirming that the Orthodox Christians and Jews worship the same God.
Let us hold our hands not only in prayer, but also in solidarity with one another. We owe it to our God, to our common patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to each other, and to the world.
Another instance of explicit rejection of Orthodox dogma is when the Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew prayed with the, quote, Pope Francis at the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem.
Compiamo sulle orme dei nostri venerati predecessori, il Papa Paolo VI e il Patriarca Atenagora, i quali con coraggio e docilità allo Spirito Santo diedero luogo 50 anni fa nella città santa di Gerusalemme allo storico incontro tra il vescovo di Roma e il patriarca di Costantinopoli.
Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew in 1995 signed a, quote, joint declaration between him and John Paul II, which affirmed that Orthodox and Catholics were, quote, sister churches, and to, quote, pray for Christian unity, also encouraging dialogue with, quote, various religions, and above all, with those that are monotheistic. Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew in 2014 signed a document called, quote, Ecumenical Blessings and Signing of the Common Declaration, which promotes, quote, respectful dialogue with Islam, end quote, stating that Muslims and Christians are called to work together for the sake of justice, peace, and respect. Also making statements that, quote, as Christian leaders, we call on all religious leaders to pursue and strengthen interreligious dialogue, and to make every effort to build a culture of peace and solidarity between persons and between peoples. Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew in 2016 again signs a document that states, quote, we firmly and wholeheartedly resolve to intensify our efforts to promote the full unity of all Christians. Some may be wondering when these acts of apostasy began. Some have speculated that it started when Ecumenical Patriarch Athenagoras I signed a joint declaration with Pope Paul IV, quote, lifting the anathemas of the Great Schism, making statements such as, Pope Paul IV and Patriarch Athenagoras I, with this synod, in common agreement, declare that they regret the offensive words of the Great Schism, the reproaches without foundation, and the reprehensible gestures which, on both sides, have marked or accompanied the sad events of this period. They likewise regret and remove both from memory and from the midst of the Church the sentences of excommunication, which followed these events, the memories of which have influenced actions up to the day and have hindered closer relations in charity. And they commit these excommunications to oblivion. Even within the so-called conservative Moscow Patriarch, the heresy of ecumenism and religious indifferentism has crept into this patriarchate. In 2016, a joint declaration of Pope Francis and Patriarch Kirill of Moscow claims that Catholic and Orthodox ought to unite to preach the gospel together, and claims that the Orthodox and Catholics are, quote, brothers, and to discourage proselytism between Catholics and Orthodox. Yet again, on February 16, 2016, Patriarch Kirill and Pope Francis had a meeting in which Patriarch Kirill claims that the Catholic Church is a, quote, church, and that Catholics and Orthodox churches should work together to eradicate war, that human life may be respected everywhere, and social morality should be reinforced. Within that same document, Pope Francis claims that, quote, we speak as brothers, we have the same baptism, we are bishops, which completely contradicts the dogma that outside of the Orthodox Church there's absolutely no mysteries, or sacraments, as the West calls them. Patriarch Kirill proceeds to make false statements found in a 2017 video that Muslims and Christians are to, quote, each turn to the same God, the Creator, implying that Christians and Muslims worship the same God.
Поэтому от всего сердца молитесь, просите у Господа помощи. Я знаю, что здесь и христиане, и мусульмане. Каждый обращается к одному и тому же Богу, Творцу.
These blatant acts of apostasy are never talked about by promoters of Eastern Orthodoxy, which further diminishes the claim of the Orthodox that tradition has been retained in Eastern Orthodoxy. 1 Corinthians 10:20, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Psalm 96:5, the gods of the peoples are idols, but the Lord made the heavens and the earth. John 3:36, he who believes in the Son has everlasting life, and he who does not believe in the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abides on him.